In the previous video, we looked at the achievements of the ancient Greeks and Romans in the area of language and literature. Today, we'll move on to study the achievements in the area of mathematics and science. Now, when we are talking about the ancient Greeks and Roman achievements in the area of mathematics, we should not ignore the achievements of this Greek mathematician, Pythagoras. He brought up the Pythagoras theorem, which you may be studying in Form 2 mathematics. And there was another Greek mathematician, Euclid, who wrote a book on geometry, which was the elements. Now, the Romans also developed their own numbers. Their numbers are still in use today. We guess that you may not have any idea about the Greek the Roman numeral. Therefore, we have identified one YouTube video for your reference. You may take a look at this video. Maybe we can take a very brief look at this video.
Can you read Roman numerals? Roman numbers? In ancient Rome, they wrote their numbers using capital letters. It's confusing. Well, actually, we still use Roman numerals today on our clocks or our watches, but mostly just the fancy ones. We also use them to describe really big events like the Super Bowl or the Olympics. But because we don't use Roman numerals all the time, it's easy to get them mixed up. There's 7 different letters used in Roman numerals. Let's think of ways to tell which Roman numeral is which. Okay, the letter I stands for number 1. That one's easy. It looks like the number 1. The letter V stands for the number 5. You can do a little hand trick to remember this one. So if you hold up your whole hand, which is 5, put down the middle 3 fingers, it looks like a V. V, 5. V, 5. The letter X stands for the number 10. You can remember this one because if you take 2 V's, you can make an X by putting them like this, or like that. The letter L stands for the number 50. I don't really have a trick for that one, so you're just going to have to remember it. The letter C stands for the number 100, like how there are 100 cents in a dollar, or 100 years in a century. And the letter D stands for 500, which, yeah, I don't really have a trick for that one either. But the letter M stands for 1000. That one's easy if you speak French because the word 1000 in French is mille, like how many years are in a millennium, 1000. And now you also know a little French, so that's good.
Okay, that's good. So, we go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Now, we have already talked about the ancient Greece and Roman achievements in the area of mathematics and numbers, so we can take a look at the scientific discovery. Now, when we talk about the scientific discovery of the ancient Greece, we usually introduce you to the Archimedes principle. Actually, the Greek mathematician Archimedes, he could find ways to measure the circumference of a circle, and he also discovered the Archimedes principle, which you will be studying in your senior secondary physics. And in the area of medicine, the ancient Greeks also had some achievements. And here we have the father of medicine, Hippocrates. Hippocrates believed that illness was not a punishment from gods. That means when we get sick, there must be a reason, and the reason can be found out. Just like in recent months, we can be able to identify some outbreak of a new pneumonia. So the doctors back in China or in other countries, they try to identify the virus that caused this new pneumonia, and they could identify that, well, the coronavirus would be behind these new kind of pneumonia, and therefore when they identify the cause, they were trying to find ways to cure it. And so this was also the idea of Hippocrates. He believed that when the cause of the illness can be identified, then we could be able to find a cure. Now, Hippocrates also influenced us in another way because he wrote a code of conduct for the doctors, which was known as the Hippocratic Oath. When you become a doctor nowadays, you will still be required to take the oath. written by him. The Romans also made some achievements in the area of science. As you know, the Romans were also good engineers. They were good at building roads, bridges, aqueducts, and viaducts. Now, if you need to build all these things, you must have some scientific knowledge. So we can be able to tell that the Romans must have made some discovery in the area of science. Having looked at the ancient Greeks and Roman achievements in the area of mathematics and science, we'll then look at their achievements in the area of history, geography, and some other aspects. Now, when we are talking about the ancient Greece achievements in the area of history, we would certainly look at the achievements of this man, Herodotus. Herodotus, he was the father of history because he wrote about the history of the Persian Wars. And if you want to know more about his life, definitely you can refer to this YouTube video. And in the area of geography, astronomy, the ancient Greeks drew maps and they could also find ways to tell where they are at seas. They would try to find their way at sea by watching the stars. So we can be able to tell that they must know something about astronomy as well. And Julius Caesar also improved the Roman calendar, and this Roman calendar had 365 days in a year, and then an extra day will be added for every 4 years. Now, so this was known as the Julian calendar. Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was later improved to become our modern calendar. Now, certainly you can refer to this YouTube video for more information about the history of calendar. Okay, here comes the religion. Now, the ancient Greeks believed in many gods. They worshipped many gods, and they believed that their gods lived at the top of Mount Olympus. Their gods looked like human beings, and they had feelings. Zeus was the king of all the gods. Other gods like Apollo and Athena were also popular. There are many city-states in ancient Greece, and each city-state would have their own gods. The Romans also worshipped the Greek gods, but they named them differently. Each of these gods would have their own temple. However, later in the 1st century AD, some ancient Romans believed in a new religion known as Christianity. The Christian religion was at first illegal, but it later became lawful when Emperor Constantine I ruled over the whole empire. It later became the official religion of the country as well. Now, just now we said that the Romans named the Greek god in a different ways. So you can refer to this slide for more information. Okay. We also mentioned just now the ancient Romans believe in another new religion starting from the 1st century AD. Now, I would say only some Romans, but this religion was at first illegal, and it only became legal when Emperor Constantine I ascended the throne. Why did he make the Christian religion legal? Now, there was a story behind. Now, you can refer to this slide for more information. Actually, you can be able to identify that before he fought in a battle, he could. Before he fought in a battle, he could able to identify a sign on the sky here. Now, here's a story about why he would make the Christian religion legal. Okay, now before the battle, he and his army saw a cross of light in the sky above the sun, with some Greek words written on it, which could be translated into Latin as "in hoc signo vinces." Okay, That night, Constantine had a dream in which Jesus Christ told him that he should use the sign of the cross against his enemies. He was so impressed that he had the Christian symbol marked on his soldier shields, and then he won the battle. So after winning the battle, he believed that Jesus Christ had helped him, therefore he decided to make the religion legal in the country. So here, this is the statue of Emperor Constantine, and I believe that you should know about his story because you can be able to identify that on our school badge. This Latin phrase was also printed on our school badge. Therefore, as a Wyanite, we should be able to tell the story behind. Now, the ancient Greece also made some achievements in the area of philosophy, and definitely we would refer to these three great ancient Greek philosophers: Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. I would like to emphasize a few areas about these three great philosophers. First of all, Socrates was the teacher of Plato, and Plato was the teacher of Aristotle. So they were teachers and students. The first point. The second point was that, well, these three great philosophers share a common area of interest. Now you can be able to identify that Socrates wanted to improve the government in Athens. Okay, Plato, he wrote about the best ways to govern the people. Aristotle, he wrote books about politics. Now, so we can be able to tell that the three of them shared a common interest. They were interested in the functioning of the government. They were interested in finding ways to improve the government. However, the fates are different. Now we can be able to see that Socrates was forced to drink poison. Now because he encouraged his students to ask questions, and as he wanted to improve the government, that meant he thought that the government in Athens was not good enough. In that sense, he might have angered some politicians, so the politicians would want to get rid of him. Well, and the best way of getting rid of a person was to kill him. So he was then forced to drink poison as a result. Now Aristotle, he was also interested in politics, but it seems that he was more fortunate than Socrates because he was once teacher of Alexander the Great. We will take a look at the work of this king later. Now, the ancient Greece also made some achievements in the area of sports. And as you can see, the Olympic Games were held by the ancient Greece to honor Zeus. So therefore, we can be able to tell that the ancient Olympic Games was not only a sports event, it was also a religious event. It started in ancient Greece in about 776 BC. There are lots of events like running, jumping, chariot racing, and winners of the games will be given a crown made of the leaves of olive. They would not be given gold medals, and I guess there would not be any silver or bronze medal. And the games, like the modern Olympics, took place every 4 years in Olympia in southern Greece. And all city-states would stop fighting in times of war during the games in order to ensure safe travel for the athletes and other people. So this is known as the Olympic truce. Now, the ancient Olympic Games ended in Roman times because you have learned just now that Emperor Constantine made the religion legal in the country, and it later became the official religion of the country. So when the Christian religion became official, they would certainly not want the people to celebrate religious events of pagan gods. So as a result, the ancient Olympic Games came to an end, and the Olympic Games were restored in 1896, and the games were first held in Athens. Since then, the games will be held in different cities every 4 years in different countries. And in this year, the Olympic Games would be hosted by Japan, and the games will be held in Tokyo. The Romans also developed their own kind of sports. They love to watch gladiator fights. These fights would usually be held in the Colosseum, and they would also love watching the chariot races, which were usually held in circuses. And the largest one would be the Circus Maximus, which could hold 200,000 people. Gladiators were mostly slaves or criminals. They fought with different kinds of weapons like swords, clubs, or net. They could get killed. You may refer to this YouTube video for further information about the gladiators. Okay, now I think we should stop here so that the video would not be too long. So see you next time in the next video, and we will be talking about the ancient Greek achievements in the area of architecture and art. So see you next time. Thanks for watching.